All right, good evening. My name is Julie Lambert, and this is number 6 and the last of our People's Forum, where folks are allowed to come here and express their opinions about various topics. So far, it's been very successful, and we are going to do this again next year. And it will also be broadcast on KEPW 97.3 FM if you want to take a listen to what we've talked about.
Hello, my name is Diane Schaefer, and I read this week that people are saying we need to plant 1 trillion trees in the next 10 years in order to change the climate change, turn it around. And I did the math. If everyone on the face of the planet planted 150 trees, that would do the trick. But obviously we can't. Obviously not everyone can do it. Newborn babies can't do it. Quadriplegics can't do it. So we're going to have to make up for those guys. Let's say that adds another 20% trees to what everyone should plant. And also there are people on the planet who will not plant trees under any circumstances. So we have to make up for those. My suggestion would be, ideally, everyone plant 3 trees a day, but if you can't, don't worry about it. Just think about that guy in India who planted a whole 40-acre forest. He took 60 years to do it. Think about those 2 biologists in Brazil who took 12 years to plant, to start a forest. They poured all those orange peels on the ground. That's all you really need to do. 12 years later, they come out of court from being sued, and boom, there's a forest. Mission accomplished. So think about that. Plant at least everyone that can and will plant 3 trees a day. And if you can't, don't worry about it. Just get it done within the next 10 years. I'm out.
Good evening. My name is Pamela Kraus. It's a lovely evening. I just ran into a tile quote for the evening over here. It says, principle before politics. And I'm wondering, where has the comment from local government been about the horrendous, horrible tragedy of the killing of Loretta by a garbage truck a week ago? So I'm wearing a ribbon in a net's honor. And I would like just to be pretty silent for the rest of my time. Anybody present who has a word they would like to offer in regard to that lost life, please do so.
Housing first.
A downtown shelter. Tech report.
Welcome. Provision. Keeping promises.
Decriminalize.
Reclaim.
Sorrow and trauma that don't need to happen.
Do the right thing.
Care for the driver who ran over her. Promise to do better. Courage. Hope. Extreme sadness.
Comfort to the survivors.
Rest in peace.
When? I'm sorry. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Julie Lambert, and it has been my sad task to honor the young lady that died. Her name was Annette Lorraine Montero. She was also known as Anne. She had friends on the street, and she also had friends in the areas where she would eat, such as the Sunday breakfast. Arrangements are being made for her approximately mid-September, but we are stymied by the fact that we so far cannot find a source that keeps track of homeless deaths so that we can honor them all. So via Facebook, quite a few people have shared the loved ones that they have lost that passed away in part just because they were homeless. So please, if you knew Anne, or if you didn't, you probably knew someone. Bring their name so that we can honor them. Prayers are lovely, but we need action. Dan Bryant has offered to hold services in the White Church, and Wayne Martin has offered to read off each name followed by a moment of silence. In the meantime, it's critical, especially now, that we find a way between the city, the county, somehow to keep track of everyone that we lose because they don't have a safe place to stay. Thank you.
So I'm Todd Boyle, and I am slouching here at People's Forum, sitting down this time, to point out this tile, Principle Above Politics, by Wayne Morse, none other than Wayne Morse. And the relevance of this to our housing crisis, and there is a housing crisis, of which the homeless crisis is a big part, is that our policies that restrict the construction of cheap housing and allow the cheap housing that exists to be bid out from under the people who live there. This ongoing process of displacement is an embodiment of policy, both the public and visible policy that's encoded into the Chapter 9, the Land Use Code, but also economic forces and other political forces in communities that shaped the restrictions, the infamous anti-housing ordinances of Eugene. So, being as these restrictions embody a history of policy making, the definition of policy is a system of principles. Look it up in the Wikipedia, that's very interesting. And principles which guide the formation of actions and staffing and budgets and so forth. So it really is all about principles. So I just want to name 3 principles that really drive me nuts. One of the principles that's very prevalent here in Eugene is that property owners who own land in a neighborhood ought to be able to set the rules or to have a strong influence over what gets built in their neighborhood. Now where did that ever come up from, you know? Well, obviously it was popular among property owners, but it isn't working in an ever-increasing population with the rigid land use boundary, urban growth boundary. And so what happens is that the scarcity of housing causes prices to go up, and then your lowest income people to be displaced out into the street, which is a completely absurd policy. But that's the principle underlying that has to be reversed. It shouldn't be allowed in public discourse. I mean, it should be immediately ruled out of order. Another one is that the idea that if a person owns land, that they have a right that their property rights should not decrease in value because of land use, changes in land use restrictions. And in perpetuity now, is this going to be for 100 years or 1,000 years? Are we going to have there's 44,000 lots in Eugene, and the average lot is something like 6,000 square feet. And in 1,000 years, is it still going to be 6,000 square feet? And they're still going to be protected against changes in policy that make their property price go down, such as building some apartments in the neighborhood. I mean, there's just a number of these policies that make me crazy. But I think we need to start arguing, those of you who really care about this problem of displacement, we have to start arguing about these principles that have been accepted for too long. And we have to look to our city council to be leaders and not poll takers. You know, there's two kinds of politicians. You know, I mean, they all have some degree of both to survive in politics. But we really don't need to elect people to conduct polls and as to what the public opinion is. What we need are leaders who can articulate the problem and work to identify the causal factors of the problem and change that problem. So we won't be literally seeing homeless people dying in the streets. And so rest in peace, Annette Montero. That was a pretty shocking event this week, and I'm really affected by that. Thanks for listening.
Hi, I'm Julie Lambert, and I'm speaking with Otis Root, and he had an experience this weekend. Otis, can you explain to us what happened for you?
Well, this last Sunday, I went to St. Mary's Catholic Church, and I offered to wash the feet of the parishioners that were arriving for Sunday morning Mass. And I was informed by the custodian and the priest that I was legally able to stand on the sidewalk. They had no control over that, but I was not welcome on church property. And if I stepped off the sidewalk onto church property, that I would be considered trespassing and they would call the police.
Wow, what did you think of that?
Well, my thoughts on that are the church is tax exempt. The land that the church sits on, that entire block is tax exempt. And it was donated to them. And they are willing to call police who are on the taxpayer's payroll to find people and, you know, harass them for speaking their minds and protesting in public near their property.
So what was the context? The Eric Jackson protest camp that has been occupying the sidewalks around that Catholic church.
Well,
and
a Catholic church, a St. Mary's Catholic Church.
Right, so that's 11th and Charlton.
Yes, I believe that is the church that received a complaint from somebody nearby, and then they called and complained about it and asked that the people be removed from there.
Yes, there's a protest camp there, and it's being headed by Eric Jackson. And I'm doing what I can to support those people because I don't believe that the city is right in their ordinances. I mean, a lady died because there's no safe place for street people to sleep. And she believed that she would be safe there or else she would have never laid down.
Yeah, that's correct.
And it cost her life. And I believe that the city is culpable.
And from what I understand, the CLDC is taking Eric's case and they're going to court with it because they do believe he has a case because of Boise versus Idaho. That people should, if they don't have a place to rest, that they should be given a place to rest except for on private property. And that's the thing that he's going on. And what's really wonderful for Eric is that he has a lot of community support. People drop off food, people encourage him, just people believe in what he's doing because if he's able to be successful with this, then he's going to help so many people. It's not just about Eric.
And I brought food. I brought my skills, my knowledge of living on the street, and today I made a rocket stove so that, and gave a demonstration to show that anybody can make one, and it's a way of keeping yourself warm. You can burn paper cups, you can burn your trash, whatever, and try to stay warm in the wintertime.